Hi, this is Nick Smith, Sloan Implement. Today we're going to talk about Gator boundary mapping, the importance of it, and setup of the operation. So the importance part of mapping your fields is for section control as far as spraying through waterways and planting through waterways, also putting exterior boundaries around fields so operators know when they pull in the field. You can simply click the Find Field button and it will pull up that client farm field that operator is in. To set this up, a lot of times what we use is a Gator or some kind of similar side-by-side. For a lot of the newer style Gators, they come with integrated harnesses already equipped with them. For any older or non-John Deere product, we have a universal harness that we can tap in on the battery to get power, switch power and ground to be able to power our display and our globe. What we have here is I've got a John Deere 825i. So this one, actually, we fabbed a bracket on there and it is mounted on backwards. The globe is, in order to get to fit. That's no big deal, because in the screen I'll show you how we can flip that globe backwards so we make sure that we're recording on the right side of the line. So we'll jump in and I'll show you a little bit of how to map a field. So first thing, when we get in our Gator, we need to make sure we have good signal. So if we click up in here, this is on a 4640 display. You can also do this with a 2630 or a 2600 display as far as running boundaries and setting guidance lines. So if we click on our globe here, what we want is we want to have RTK. The importance of doing boundaries is to make sure that you're running RTK for the boundaries. Doing boundaries with SF1 or SF3, it gives you, basically your boundaries can drift. So we want to make sure we're running RTK when we're setting these lines so we can use them in season and every year repeatability. So we have good 3D RTK here. So the next thing we're going to do, we need to make sure we got a client farm field set in here. So whatever field we're in and we're going to boundary first, we need to make sure we have that. So if we hit our setup button here, we come up here to our location. What I have in here, I've already got my client, my farm, and my field set. So we'll hit OK here. After that, we're pretty well ready to go. So the first button we're going to hit is always start out, and I hit my boundary button. What we're going to do is we're going to create a driven boundary. We're going to hit OK. So what we got here is we've got an offset. So our globe is in the center of this Gator. I run my boundary on my left front tire. From the center to the left of the front tire on this particular Gator is about 3 foot. So I'm going to put a 3 foot offset in, so that way when I'm running my tire along the edge of the field, that's exactly where it's pointing that line and snapping that line. So depending on what machine you have, you need to just measure from the center of the globe to your left front tire or your right front tire, whichever way you're going to go around the field, and make sure you have that offset in there as close as you can. Next thing we're going to hit is we can go ahead and hit start recording. Now from here, as soon as I take off moving, it's going to start painting me a pink line. The good thing about the 4640 displays is you can go ahead and exit out of this and it'll still continue recording and show it right up here on this top left side. The next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and set our track so we can actually snap a line and record the same side on the same line. So we'll hit set track. If we come down here and we're going to hit our new track button, we're just going to do an A+B method. So it's important to name your track name. So a lot of times what we do is we'll say, if we're on the west side of the field, we're going to name it the west line. If we're on the north, we're going to name it the north, etc. So we'll say we're on the west side here. We're going to type in west. So when that operator pulls in and he's on the west side of the field, he can quickly hit set track and pull up that west line and be able to take off. So we'll just go ahead and hit OK. The next step we're going to do is we're going to set our A here. And now we're ready to drive down to the other end of the field. So now that we're here on the end of our pass on the left side of the field, first thing we need to do is we want to pause our recording for our boundary. That way, once we get spun around, it's not recording while we get spun around and facing the other direction. The next thing we're going to do is we can X out here. We can go ahead and set our B. So now our AB line and our boundary line have the exact same heading, the exact same coordinates. So that makes sure that when that operator is using that AB line and he centers himself up and he's got the right track spacing in, that his planter or his sprayer should not get outside that boundary. So now that I've got myself spun around, I'm ready to go ahead and tackle the north line. So first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and start our recording again. We'll come back out of here. Same thing like we did before. We're going to come into our set track. We're going to do a new track. We're going to do our A plus B method again. And then we're going to name our track name. So for this line here, I'm going to do the north line. The important thing to remember about doing boundaries is if you're on a line where there's two fields next to you, you have a neighboring field, sometimes it's hard to drive that line and be exactly perfect. So what we like to do is we like to back up to our fence post, go ahead and start our recording. We'll take off moving a little bit and then you can pause it. When you pause it, go ahead and drive to the other end of that fence post on that line. When you get down there and start your recording again, it'll snap that line directly straight. So you know you have a line that's directly from fence post to fence post rather than trying to drive and make sure it's straight all the way through when you can't see that fence post. So now that we're at the end on our north line, we're going to go ahead and pause it again. We're going to back out of here, and we're going to go ahead and set our B. So now our AB line on the north side is exactly where our boundary is. So now that we got ourselves turned around and we're back up in the corner, we're ready to do our east line here. So for this example here, I've got a field right next to me, so I'm actually going to snap this line and I'll show you what that looks like. So the first thing we need to do, let's go ahead and hit our record buttons because we want to initially start that recording. We're going to X out of here and we're going to come back in here and we're going to set our track again. So we're going to hit new track, we're going to AB method, and we're going to call this the east line. So now that we have our A set, we've initially started our recording. The next thing I want to do is I'll go ahead and pull this screen back up and I'll take off here just a little bit. Just get the Gator moving a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and pause it again. So as I pause it, as you can see, as I move along, that pink line is not moving with me. So what that's going to allow me to do is I snapped a point back there at that field post, and I can drive down to the other field post, and then once I start recording again, it's going to snap a perfectly straight line from field post to field post, so I make sure that I'm not getting over in my neighbor's field. So now that I'm down here at the corner again, as you can see, my map has not snapped from where I'm at. So if I go ahead and hit this record button again, you'll watch that pink line snap from back where I started to where I am now. So as soon as I hit that record, it snapped that line. So now where I started there at my fence post back there and to where I'm at this fence post here, it's a perfectly straight line. So that's important to do when you're doing fields that have neighboring fields against you that is not actually yours. Now, anytime you're along a waterway or along a road ditch, we always recommend to drive it. But anytime you've got a field next to you where you can't drive it perfectly straight and you just want it to be from post to post, just go ahead and pause it, drive to your other post, and then snap that line perfectly straight. So now that I've started my recording, it snapped that line. First thing I want to do again is I want to pause it again while I get turned back around to go the other way. Next thing I can't forget to do is I got to remember to set my B here too. So now I have my east line. So now I'm going to get spun around and we'll finish off with our south line here. So we'll pull our screen up. Now you can see that it's already set a line from where we first started to where we're at now. But that doesn't mean that I still don't need to drive this line, because if this part of this field has any little bit of contour, I still need to finish it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit record. I'm going to come back out of here. Again, I'm going to come up in here and I'm going to set my track. I'm going to do a new track. I'm going to do an A-B method again, and this will be the last line on the field, and this is going to be our south line. Now that I got my south line named, I got my A set, I've got my recording already started, I'm ready to take off and go and drive to where I initially started at the first part of this field. So now that we're back at the original point that we started on for this field, I can go ahead and pause it again, and I actually can go in here and just hit save. What that did was that basically made that boundary, it's active and it's ready for use now. The next thing I can't forget to do on this last line is go ahead and set my B. So now this boundary is loaded in this screen. Now if we were to come back in and plant with this same exact screen, that boundary would be in there. If you don't use this screen, it's important to, after you map all your fields in the spring or in the fall, to export the data off here and push it into your My John Deere Operations Center, so those are saved and you never have to worry about using them. RTK boundary mapping is a service that Sloan Implement offers. We use our own RTK globe, and we'll come to your farm with our screen, our Gator, and our globe, and we'll do the mapping for you. For more information on that, visit sloans.com or contact your local dealer.